Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Airing It Out Podcast. I am Dustin, your host as always. I am so excited to have back on Captain Donald Lawson, sailor extraordinaire. What is going on, Donald? And welcome back.
Hey, Dustin, man, it's crazy. It's only been a month since we've talked to each other, but it feels like a lifetime, doesn't it?
It totally does, brother. I was telling Scott a little bit ago, since we've talked, I've shot like 40 episodes. So it has been a bit of a mission. And I know you've been out and about, shaking hands, kissing babies, doing all the things that someone in your position should be doing right now.
Yeah. Well, not for kissing babies because of COVID still, but I will give a little dap to the baby paw and say hi to him, that kind of stuff.
That's awesome. So, I keep an eye on you. You're on my feed and stuff like that. We'll bounce around a little bit. I know we're here to talk about a bunch of different specific things, but I know that you've been super excited all season for Russell Westbrook. I wanted to
Oh
get
yeah,
your opinion on what you think about him. What excites you about his game? I mean, this guy, I believe, was Player of the Month of this particular month, if not last month.
yeah,
Just talk to us a little bit about what excites you about his style of play.
yeah. So it's funny, yeah. So Russell Westbrook is my currently my favorite NBA player. It's not even close. I mean, there's not a lot of guys who play with his passion and his energy. Um, I grew up watching basketball from the early 90s, late 80s. And so when I look for NBA players or athletes to inspire me, I look for guys who have, kind of an assassin's mentality, like they're willing to die for the cause on the court. And so I had Michael Jordan growing up. Then I had Kobe Bryant and Allen Iverson. And then, of course, Kobe retired in the past. And Russell Westbrook fits that mold. And so he's the type of guy who doesn't care about stats. No, and people think, oh, he gets triple doubles, and if he cared about stats only, then what you would see him doing is probably not passing the ball as much because he'll try to score more. The guy wants to win, and so when I look at him how he plays the game, yeah, he may shoot 6 of 18 in the game, but he'll dish out 24 assists. So, would you rather have 24 assists or half of those assists are 3 pointers, or would you rather have a guy shoot 35 times, and hit 15, 20 shots? And so when I look at athletes, even like Formula One this weekend, Max and Red Bull took the lead in the Constructor Cup, and Max won the Monaco race. I look for athletes who have that killer instinct, and Russell Westbrook has been one of my favorite players, and the way he plays, I have a lot of respect for it. And so whenever he plays well or plays a game, you'll see me blasting and stuff because I think too often we always glorify the pretty 3 pointer or the pretty dunk. You don't appreciate the guys putting in the work. And I always tell people this: if you want to know how hard it is to do what he does, just try to play NBA 2K on a video game and do the same thing. And I promise you, you'll struggle doing it on a video game. So
Yeah, no, I always talk to people about just play a couple of rounds of half court, bro. I mean, a full court basketball. Forget about half court, full court. Run back and
man,
forth a few times and see if you could just do that. Forget about,
yeah.
your assist department, point department, or rebound department. Yeah, no, I enjoy watching him. I don't understand why they haven't been able to find someone that works better with him in the sense of getting him to a championship, because it's going to be a sad day if he doesn't ever get a ring, because he is a
Oh,
very dynamic player.
well, look at it from this standpoint. John Stockton assists and steals leader all time by a lot. No rings. Oscar, who Russell just passed, got a ring at the end of his career playing with Lou Alcindor, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. You look at people like Steve Nash, 2 MVPs. I can keep going through a list of all these guards. Chris Paul still hasn't even been to the finals. Yet you have Westbrook breaking all these records, and he's been in the finals once, conference finals 3 or 4 times. And it wasn't for a couple of injuries, key injuries. Patrick Beverly, Westbrook with him would have probably won at least one championship. And so the totality of an athlete is not just on the championships you win, it's about how you play the game, how your teammates feel about you. And I have never heard a single team member that he's ever had say anything bad about him. In fact, all his best team members, whether it's Paul George or James Harden or Kevin Durant, even Bradley Beal, have averaged career highs playing next to him. So if you want to look at his, what he's done for, his team members and his franchises, look at his team members. You'll see how well they've played.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree with you more. I just think that everybody now judges everything by hardware. We can see now LeBron James. I just seen that Shaq posted something that said he has, I believe, I could get this number wrong, either 700 or 7,000. I think it's 7,000. 7,000 points in playoff history, which is pretty impressive.
Isn't it?
Not that many people are going to be able to measure up to that. And I think he's dynamic. It just doesn't seem like in this day and age, when you see the Tom Brady's and some of these other guys, even LeBron James, Michael Jordan's, Kobe Bryant's, that people understand that it is also what you do on the court during the regular season. But that doesn't seem to matter by some of the fans who can't even really play basketball or play any sport to the highest level of competition. And I also blame some of the sports writers too. They don't allow us to enjoy these guys while they're here, and everything is about what you did great next and next and next. And so that kind of sucks.
Yeah, a lot of sports writers have been disappointing me of late. Some of the guys, I'm not going to say their names, I used to follow heavily, who don't seem to appreciate the art of basketball. And they'll criticize Kevin Durant for going to Golden State, but then they'll criticize the guy Westbrook for being loyal. And so you would think a logical person would pick a side. Well, if you ever hear a sports writer who can't pick a side, that's generally because they don't care about sides. They care about ratings. They're just trying to get that money. And so I'd rather have someone like Skip Bayless, who just doesn't like LeBron James, say, I don't like LeBron James. I can at least respect his stance, because I know what his stance is. I don't like when people go wishy-washy, like, oh, Chris Paul's the greatest point guard of all time, but he's never been in the finals. And then Westbrook will say, well, he's a terrible point guard because X, Y, and Z. It's like, I want to be, as a sailor, as an athlete, I want to be measured fairly compared to my competition. And so if you're not going to measure me fairly, then I can never win. I can never add up to what they want you to be. So bottom line, be you, play your game, do the best you can do, and let history speak for you. And that's how it works.
I couldn't agree again with you more. So, speaking about competitions and championships and all these other things, you're going to be competing very soon here, I believe, this weekend in the regatta. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yes. Yep. So there's a Memorial Day regatta out in Chesapeake Bay. It's going to be a distance race from my hometown of Baltimore down to Annapolis. And it's going to be about 7 to 8 boats. It's an annual event. And it's going to be a wild ride. I mean, the weather forecast right now has the wind blowing at 15, 20 knots, gusting a little higher than that. And for those who have never been on the water, that's a lot of wind. So it's going to be lots. It's going to be really, really fast. It's going to be intense. 7 boats. I like our chances. I think by the time we get to Annapolis, it'll be pretty defined at that point, who the best boats in the fleet were at that stage. So I look forward to it.
And there's no stopping, right? It's a straight race, right?
Nope. You start probably near Fort McHenry. The start line will be decided that morning, but it's going to probably be right in front of the fort. And you go down the river and you hit the bay, and you're in the open water. And you go past the Bay Bridge, and then you get to the towers off Annapolis, and that's the finish line. And so no outside assistance, no help, no nothing. You just go, and we'll find out who the best one is.
I think I was looking it up. Is it a 500-mile race?
No, this one here is probably closer to about 50 miles.
Okay.
Because this is only a 1-day race. And the races you're talking about, most of the races we do are about 600 miles.
Okay.
Actually, majority of racing we do is 600 miles, because when these races were first created, that was generally considered a 2.5-day race because the boats were slower. By today's standards, if the wind's really good, we could probably do that in a day and a half or less. So,
And then with going for 50 miles with 15-mile knot winds, how fast are you going? You going about 35 knots or
No,
no?
no. So on these boats here, I think we'll max out at around 10 to 12, maybe at the max. Uh, Mostly because the wind's going to be coming from behind us and it's going to be really fast, direct shots. Um, so these types of boats, we call them displacement poles. They're boats that sit in the water all the way. And unlike the faster boats that race, like multi-hulls, trimarans, and stuff, when you're skimming over the water, we're pushing water the entire time. And so that plus the weight of the boat slows us down a little bit. So if the breeze is at 15 knots, hitting 10 knots is pretty good for a boat of this size.
Okay, well, so then we're going to be excited. Now, you said the last time we spoke, you said that they have like all these tracking mechanisms and
Yes.
things. Is there going to be some kind of app that people are going to be able to follow you along, or not on this one?
So there won't be any trackers on this one, but there will be lots of live streams going on. And so between myself, there's going to be a committee boat, tugboat following us all the way down. And so my wife and some other members on the committee boat are going to be live streaming the regatta. And so the goal and hope is that there will be a early morning live stream where we'll kind of do a weather review. We'll answer some questions from the audience on social media, and then from there, my wife and then will stream the start of the race, and then throughout the race, they'll continue streaming as we go. But I also will do some streaming while I'm out there on the water as well. And the goal really is to bring people at home onto the boat with us. They experience it, and I think one of the most important aspects of my job is to convey the story. And so, thank God today we have a technology that we can actually broadcast information directly. So,
Yeah, that's to thank God we definitely have all of these different gadgets, whether it's Instagram Live, now with Zoom and things of this nature. I wanted to ask you something else. So you're obviously the captain, right? How many other crew members are assisting you in navigating the boat?
right. So there's going to be probably about 5 or 6 people on board crewing on this particular regatta. The goal is going to be to get them to do most of the work, and I'll coach and skipper the boat. Uh, this regatta is more of an event for team building and expertise. And so, what I'm going to try to do is try to be that guy who fixes a strategy, keeps everyone safe, make sure the boat executes its job correctly, and get to the finish line. These kind of events on these boats, I don't own the boat, so it's not my boat for me to dictate fully about every part of the operations. I'm brought on for safety, experience, and leadership. And one of the cool things for your fans who are listening today is to follow this. All you have to do is go to my Facebook page or my Instagram page under Captain Donald Lawson. And on that page, you'll see the live streams, you'll see the pictures and videos that we're going to take during these events. And beforehand, let's say throughout this current week, you're able to go and look at things we've done before. And so it's a lot easier to formulate questions after you've already reviewed what we've done before. So then when you see us actually doing it, then you're asking more detailed questions about things you've already thought about. So yeah, so check out our Facebook page and our Instagram page, Captain Donald Lawson, and see the things we've done already.
Yeah, no, I'll definitely link all the stuff in the description so that everybody gets an opportunity to check it out. So this crew that you got working with you, have you sailed with these individuals before, or is this kind of a cold crew? Have you worked with certain ones before? How did you go about getting these guys and these young ladies?
Yeah, so no, I've never sailed with this team before. That happens quite often in the sport. But fortunately, we have on Friday, we're going to do a training cruise, if you will, where we're going to sail probably about 30 miles together. So almost the length of the actual race. And that trip that Friday, which we also will live stream as well, by the way, we're going to build up our teamwork, build up our strategy, and get an understanding of what people's thresholds are, because everyone wants to be the boss. They want to steer the boat and give commands. But then what you actually when you actually do it, you realize the responsibility that comes with it. and it can be a lot more challenging than you thought. So then maybe you'll transition to a different position. But the goal is to get everyone a chance, try things out, practice a little bit, get used to the boat, how it handles. Do that Friday, and then Saturday morning, get to work, do the regatta.
I know we have spoken before. Normally, you don't really get to do a test run on this, right? It's just usually you go. Is this
Right.
something new with the regatta race, or is this something that is normally known when you're getting a cold team like that you kind of want to warm up with everybody?
Right. So we're not doing the race course itself for the practice Friday. We're actually doing a trip from the boat's home base to Baltimore to the start line. And so the best way of picturing it is this whole weekend is a big triangle. Okay. And so let's say the flat part of the triangle is the top part, and then the two legs at the bottom, and the bottom part being Annapolis. So the top flat part, we're going from east to west to Baltimore. That's the training practice. And then on Saturday, we're doing the race, which is the diagonal line down from Baltimore to Annapolis. And then Sunday, as kind of reward and a fun cruise, we're going to sail from Annapolis back to the Eastern Shore so they can enjoy themselves, take pictures with their family and friends, and that kind of stuff. So it's going to be it's more geared toward trying to get them experience, have them compete, and then have them have fun at the end.
So I know, well, again, we chatted a little bit, and you talk about some of the stuff that you do before the race. Besides checking weather and understanding how many knots the winds are coming, what else do you specifically work on before you kind of get ready for a race of this caliber?
Oh man, preparation. Yikes. So I've been preparing for this race for about a month, once I knew about it. And so navigation charts are the first thing you have to do before you even look at weather, because weather is only really accurate up to 72 hours. And so I have an idea right now, a pretty good idea what the weather will be this weekend, but the navigation charts don't really change. And so the first thing I had to figure out is where's the boat located? Where am I taking it to? Is there any like obstacles I got to watch out for? Then I got to look at the race course, same thing. Fortunately, I know this race course probably better than most because I've done this race probably 30 times in my lifetime. So I'm not too concerned about navigation of that aspect. Then the boat prep, got to know the boat, got to know how she sails, how she reacts to different conditions, how to best keep her balance, that kind of stuff. From there, got to study the sails, what kind of sails I have on board the boat, because those are your engines. And so just like I don't know, a hybrid diesel is different than a hybrid gas powered engine. You got to be able to change, you got to know how to make them work. From there, then it's a prep, getting to know the sailors, getting to know the guys and girls who are going to be on board, because you want them to all have a good time. You don't want people to come on board and be miserable the entire time. So get to know the crew. And then you get to the weather and the strategy. And so all that comes afterwards. And for me, one of my skill sets happens to be tactics. So that's one of the skills I've developed over the years. And so I pretty much, before I get there, have a ballpark idea of what I'm going to do before the race starts. And the morning of, then I can make the final decision about the tactics. And it's it feels really good when you get to the finish line and you feel like 85% of your decisions you made in advance worked out. That's kind of I try to be about 85% accurate when it comes to my decision making. So yes, you can see preparation is important, and I didn't even mention provisions like food. I didn't
I know. I was
mention.
just gonna ask, are you guys allowed to eat?
Oh yeah, I mean, you got to think about food. You got to think about drinks. You got to think about the fuel on board. You got to think about any emergency gear you need, because one of the things you're going to see Saturday morning, in particular, or actually be Friday, midday Friday when we do the practice, I'm gonna do a safety review with the crew, and I have to go over the safety equipment and where it's located and how to use it, and then procedures on how if something happens, if someone falls off the boat, which I never really had happen before, knock on wood, but if someone falls off the boat, how do I recover them? How do I get back up on the boat? And so there's so much more than just tactics, but that's responsibility of a captain. I know this, I do this for a living. I know my checklist pre-race. The goal is just to keep the people excited and happy as they go through this checklist, so they don't get bored and want to quit before we start.
Yeah, wow. I quit and I didn't even start the job. I'm okay. So much work.
Yeah.
Good luck, my friend. Oh my gosh, that seems like so much. But I know you're definitely a man of excellence and preparation. So I don't see this not turning out for you the way you wanted to. So I'm excited for you. I definitely hope you come in first. Let's talk a little bit about you working with U.S. Sailing, because I know you're doing some stuff with these guys too. What's going on with that?
Oh man, so yeah, U.S. Sailing. So just for the record, for everyone, I have my hands in a lot of different things because I'm trying to help push the sport forward, not just competition wise, but in diversity and inclusion as well. And so last year, U.S. Sailing reached out to me about joining the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee, which I gladly did on the spot, because U.S. Sailing, being the governing body of sailing for this country, they recognized that there was not enough diversity in the sport. Inclusion wise, that was fine because I mean, for the most part, the sport has men and women pretty balanced in leadership and competitions. Part of its requirement by the ILC, National Olympic Committee, but at the same time, there was not a lot of brown and dark-skinned people competing in U.S. Sailing. So when I joined the committee, I had a couple targets that I felt that needed to be addressed to help the sport move along. And one was simply recognition. For U.S. Sailing to recognize that there were minority sailors. And U.S. Sailing has done a lot of really good work promoting stuff. And like example, the Siebel education program they have, which is geared toward getting minority kids started early and then having them progress through either cruising or maybe even Olympic sailing in college and stuff. And so really remarkable work there. But one of the key things I noticed is that a lot of people in power didn't know that minorities already had their own yacht clubs and boat clubs. And so I said, hey guys, some of these clubs have been around for 20, 30, 40 years, and they're doing just fine. No, the goal for U.S. Sailing is to extend the hand to bring them in to the family, because the clubs are going to go on just fine as they keep going what they're doing now. But U.S. Sailing doesn't have to reinvent the wheel. All they have to do is extend their hand, bring people in. And so I'm happy to see the amount of effort U.S. Sailing has been putting in. They hired the new CEO as well, President CEO for U.S. Sailing, who comes from I think Live Nation or something. And so they're really taking it really seriously about diversifying the sport. And so Wednesday's presentation will be kind of a check-in. Where are we now, and where are we trying to go as a sport? And it's gonna be a lot of good discussions. We got the coach of Hampton University, which is the only historical Black college that has a sailing team. He'll be on the podcast. We have the general manager for the sailing GP Grand Prix fleet going to be in there, and he'll have a lot to say about what the top levels of the sport are doing for diversity. You're going to have the vice president of Tide, which is the college sailing. He's a brother out there trying to compete in college. He's going to be out there talking about the college program. And then you'll have me talking about the diversity committee's commitment, but also talking about the things I've gone through offshore, racing out in the ocean. Because to be frank, I haven't really raced against another brother or sister out there in the ocean before. And so I know I have lots of stories to share and suggestions to give. So it's going to be hosted by U.S. Sailing, of course. Blair Overman is going to be the moderator. She runs the entire country's education program, and she's an up-and-coming leader for U.S. Sailing. So it's going to be really cool to have her guide these guys and guide us in this conversation. So it's good.
That sounds amazing. I'm really excited. We spoke the last time about this. I love bringing diversity to all professions. I also like inclusion to all professions. I think is definitely we're lagging a little bit, but hopefully we can catch up at the same token. And I think that it's awesome to give opportunities to young people to try to do different things and get out there and enjoy themselves especially on the water, because that's got to be a really cool thing, right? I follow you on social, and some of those photos from the ocean are absolutely beautiful. And sometimes you can sail to exotic locations and have some of those state of the art breakfasts I always see you sitting in front of. So that's awesome. I wanted to jump back really quickly because I was thinking about it. So back to the regatta really quickly. Where does this rank in the grand scheme of races? Even if it wasn't, let's say, this particular race that was just a 50 miles, that this seems to be a little different now due to COVID. Like, you know how tennis has, a couple of slams. Would this be considered a bigger race in the overall texture?
This will be an amateur race. We'll call it a pro-am because I'm a professional racing in it. So it's more of a pro-am event. There are a couple of professional races going on over in Europe this weekend. But I wasn't able to participate in those because COVID restrictions just lifted about 2 weeks ago. And so I couldn't commit to anything overseas at this stage. But now that I think Europe is fully open to Americans, you'll see us doing a lot more stuff coming forward. But this right here is a pro-am event. So, but don't be confused with the amateur part, because even a lot of amateurs put a lot of time and effort in. But some of them just don't meet the threshold, if you will, for a professional. There's no shame in that. I guess a good analogy would be, look at it as we're going to the Rucker, and play basketball. Kevin Durant, well, forget Kevin Durant, Dr. J back in the 70s, when he went to the Rucker and played those guys, that's kind of how we're going to carry this. We're going to have some good time, show off a little skill here and there, but the goal is to have a good time. So
is usually Memorial Day weekend the kickoff for a lot of sailing competition?
Oh yeah. Is this Memorial Day season? Yeah, it's kind of the beginning of the season because there's going to be like 6 races going on in the bay at the same time. Different fleets, different types of boats, and not just in the bay. I mean, up north, I know last weekend they had the women's championship, the two women boat championship. And I think they also had a big regatta on the West Coast as well. So Memorial Day is kind of like the official kickoff for the summer season. However, and I just want to make sure I say this correctly, the season never really ends for sailing. We sail year round, all around the planet, different locations. And so every month there is a major going on. It really depends on your concentration in sailing. Now that I'm a little older, I focus mostly on certain types of races that fit my palate, things that I enjoy. I'm not required anymore to do anything I have to get my hands on because I'm not desperate anymore. And so for myself personally, there's a season for certain records I do, and then there's races I do year round.
So now that you're talking about different races and things like this, I think the last time we had checked in with you, you were planning to do the sail around the world. It was 2022, right? Are we still committed to that one? Hopefully, fingers crossed.
Oh yes.
Wrong on the planet.
So I'm not going to give a date yet, but we pretty much know when we're departing for the record. We also know where we're departing from the record. We know which boat we're using. And we were in some final talks with a couple partners. And the cool thing about it is that we've worked really, really hard. I have a very close-knit team that I work with. And we're not very large operation. We're a small operation. And I'll just give them a shout out now because, why not? So, you have the guys at Sprint Marketing Management Group, Mikkel, Scott, Kieran, John. These guys have all been working really, really hard to help us make history, make this happen. And the success we're going to have on the water is going to come from the team that I have around me. And too often people say to me, hey, how are you getting all this stuff done? How you're really successful. I'm like, well, you're only successful as your team. Talk about Westbrook earlier. Can you name another guy on this team besides Bradley Bill right now? Oh. So you think to yourself, the fact that they even made the playoffs when they had to forfeit pretty much half the season because of COVID and injuries, that's testament to how good Russell and Bradley have played this year. So that's kind of how we are with this team. That as we keep building, you're going to learn more and more about my team members and what they do and how they've done it. But my work should not overshadow the entire team's effort to get to where we're going. So.
Yeah, I totally dig that. That's super awesome, and hopefully we get a chance to meet them more. I definitely spoke to Mikhail and Scott, and they're great. And I would also like to throw a shout out to your missus too, because I think you had also mentioned in the past if the missuses aren't on the sidelines believing and endorsing, that's got to be a bit of a challenge on its own. So give out some love to her as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And so just so I can say it too, so I look good too.
Right, let me tee you up here. Let me bring your Bradley Beal.
That's right. Be a backdoor cut. All right, gotcha. Yeah, so my wife is integral to my success. I wouldn't be where I am without her. And a lot of times people. So there's all kinds of cliche statements like, next to every successful man is a great woman, which is not true. That's probably one of the least true statements in the world, because just because you're successful does not mean everyone around you is helping you get to where you need to go. But when you have a situation where you have a partner who supports you, who believes in you, and just think about like the standpoint, to be successful, you have to be a little crazy. Okay. I mean, because you have to be able to deal with BS, the wins, the losses, the highs are really high, the lows are really low. And there's times where things are just not working out the way you want them to work out. And you have to fight yourself, your mind, to keep pushing through because you love what you're doing. But then you got to look at how it affects everyone around you. And so if you're with a spouse or a partner who does not believe in what you're doing, does not support what you're doing, you're not going to be successful, because you now have to take on their doubt, their fear, and now it's going to affect your ability to get your job done. And so I'm blessed that I have a partner who pushed me about a decade ago to go full blown and go for this. And she's been there every day for me, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah, no, that's great. I'm happy that we were able both to give her a shout out. It's interesting to me because Les Brown talks about how you have to be kind of like absurd and ridiculous with your dream, because there really isn't when you're doing things like this that are on the fringe, particularly let's say something like Sailing Around the World, you do get a lot of doubters and you do get a lot of people who don't think it's possible, and through their lens, there's obviously limitations for themselves, but you definitely have to be a little insane to produce certain things that other people don't have the vision to do. I wanted to go back really quickly to the regatta, because you had mentioned with the Sail Around the World, you already picked your boat. With the regatta, is it going to be a catamaran boat, or is it just going to be a regular sailboat? What kind of boat are you guys going to be using this weekend?
Yeah, so the boat this weekend will be a monohull, single hull, standard sailboat you normally would see in a marina. One of the funny things is that most sailors are not able to go from high performance boats to standard sailboats, if you will. I'm pretty good at jumping back and forth because I have a profile of experience for both types of boats. And so this weekend, even though she's not a high performance boat and I can't get her to foil or fly or do over 10, 12 knots, I still should be able to push her the right way without breaking her to be able to do the job correctly. And so, but the boat, for the record, which I can't say yet, is it's a beast. It's a beautiful boat. It's actually the only one of its kind in the world of that size. And once we get to the place where we're able to announce that information, you'll be one of the first people to know.
Awesome. I wanted to ask you too, when you do, because we discussed it before. There are a few people who have done it. There's only, I think the last time you told me there was either 2 or 3 minorities who had accomplished this feat.
Oh, okay.
Do you have to, when you're attempting a world record like this, do you have to pick a specific boat that has won it before, or could you go kind of outside the box and try something different? And then if you do that and accomplish it, would there be kind of like an asterisk on it that you did it with that style boat?
Right. So there are categories for records, and it's generally based on the following 3 categories generally: size of boat, which I won't go into all three, but there's three sizes. Then you have type of boat, and that's generally either a monohull or a multi-hull, which is a catamaran, trimaran. So then you have those two specifications, and then you have, is the boat crewed or single-handed? And so, and then then the asterisk side is male or female. So that's those technically the four categories, but it's really three. Um, and so what you have for our records that we're going to be doing pretty soon is we are in the multi-hull fleet, which means we're in the high performance boats. We're in the class B size, which is 59 feet down to 40 feet. And then single-handed, solo, which just means just me on board the boat, kind of like you do in Formula One or NASCAR. From there, as far as the performance awards, that's based on the cultural stuff, based on the country you're from. And so, yes, there was two African American males who went around the world before on monohulls, but they didn't do it as records, and they stopped off a bunch of times. And so that doesn't qualify for a performance or a world record. To qualify for those, you have to do it nonstop around the world. You have to do it within the parameters that everyone has to occupy to compete. And so when we take off our records, we will have approval and permission from the World Speed Sailing Record Council to do this. Like, okay, they'll say, okay, you're leaving from here at this time. We'll have a judge there to see you leave, and a judge to see you when you come back. Take this black box tracking device with you. We're going to monitor you all around the world. And then when you get back, we'll take the box off the boat. We'll double check the boat's good shape. We'll verify the information. Once it's verified, the records are yours. And so that's the procedure for that.
So we were just talking about maybe being a little unrealistic with dreams, journeys, accomplishments, goals, right? I wanted to ask you whether it's a competition you're trying to come in first with, or sailing in general, whether it be trying to do an around the world or being in the middle of nowhere and still trying to get to a destination. How do you manage fear and anxiety within those parameters? And I want to speak specifically for this weekend, because obviously, when you do things that haven't been done before, even in competition, nerves do come up and things like that. But obviously, you're a seasoned vet, so you must have had some techniques or some things that you kind of have learned to kind of control those ideas.
Yeah. Excellent question. So the greatest teacher in life is actually not failure. I know it's going to sound really weird. Just hear me out. The greatest teacher in life is learning from other people's failures. And so what I've been able to do over the years is get mentorship and talk to people, and then hop on their boats and experience things with them. And so what happens, once you experience things, once you see things, once you hear things and learn things, you now know what not to do, and you now know what to do. And so there's no reason for me to try to do something that Magellan learned was stupid in the 1500s, So if I know it's stupid then, it's probably stupid now, so don't do it. So when I approach regattas and events, I know what parameters to stay inside of. I know what to look for. And when I see a sign of something, let's say there's a really strong current that's pushing near a coastline, and historically, everyone who's gone there has run aground and lost their ships. So common sense says, okay, well, we're going to stay away from that area. You don't have to figure it out. You just know, you go with the known facts. And so when I cast off my records, I get to look back historically at people who went before me and look at the different parts of the world. I'm starting from a different destination and finishing a different destination than has ever been done before. So there's some caveats that are different, but I'm still going to some places that have been visited before. And so when I get there, I know, okay, for example, south of Cape Town, South Africa, 45 boats have hit trash and debris 100 miles off that coastline. The question is why? It's not enough to say, oh, it's lots of pollution. You have to know why and be able to figure out how to avoid that problem. And so I have, and other sailors have as well. We know there's a strong current that goes the opposite direction that you're coming, and it brings trash and debris from the eastern side of Africa. So to avoid that, you go further south to avoid that current. If you do that, then chances are you're not going to hit debris in the water. There's nothing 100% guaranteed, of course. You still can hit debris anywhere. But if you know there are factors that have affected others, try to avoid those issues. And so, in the last part to your question, when it comes to me and my anxiety and fears, um, most of my fears are based on failing, not being successful, not reaching my goals. And as much as I love winning and enjoy hosting trophies and stuff, I have a bigger fear of not doing that. I have a fear of having to say, you know what, I had one shot at this and I blew it, and I'm never going to get it again. And I don't like having those kind of regrets. And so for me, the paranoia comes in and making sure that everything's done correctly to ensure that I'm not letting people down. Because you have partners and sponsors and business partners, and everyone's putting their heart and soul into this, and you go up there and you're not ready, you're not prepared, you're joking around, playing around, you're doing a disservice for all the work they've done. And then I have to go back and look them in the eye and say, "Hey guys, I didn't take it seriously. Sorry, I can't curse. I didn't take it seriously, and I messed up. I don't want to live with that." And so my paranoia is, I said I'm going to do this, so I'm going to put everything into it so I get it done. And that's how I deal with my anxiety.
It's only a thing when you don't know. Once you get through it, it usually all works out. That's the great thing about fear. It usually only happens one time.
Right.
You just keep getting scared about other things. So let's go right into it. And I heard some of the exciting news. The gentleman allowed me to share it, and so here we go. Talk to me about your opportunity with Mrs. Oprah.
Yeah. So we have an exciting documentary we're filming through a partnership with Oprah Winfrey and the Living Classroom Foundation. And for those who don't know, Living Classroom Foundation is a nonprofit in Baltimore City that specializes in pretty much every aspect of Baltimore, whether it's education, prison reform, charter schools, maritime research, you name it, they do everything there. And one of the challenges that she gave them a year or so ago was to develop a documentary about minorities in the maritime industry, because they actually have the Frederick Douglass Maritime Museum there right on the waterfront at their headquarters. And so when I was 9 years old, this is where I got my start. I started sailing with them on their boat. And
At
from
that
that,
specific location, where
oh yeah,
wow,
yep.
that's insane that totally comes full circle. So where you started, now you're going to be able to give back and work with these folks on this project. That's wonderful.
Isn't that crazy? I mean, because when they first started the project in like 1987, 1986, whatever it was, this is why they started. They wanted to develop talent. And I'm sure other students have come through and done other things, but the fact that I'm still here, still doing it, almost 30 years later, um, and now I'm going to do records of races around the world, we've become kind of the poster child, proof of concept that the money that's been invested has worked out. And so I'm going to narrate the film. I'm going to also be interviewed in the film. And one of my goals is to share this experience with as many sailors as possible. So I'm bringing in some folks that I know, minority sailors in the industry as well, to have them tell their stories here and there, and do some footage of us sailing together, that kind of stuff. So that's going to take place. Filming begins the second week of June, and it should go for about 2 weeks. And so we'll be over there filming that experience. We'll be over there, trying to share the stories. And I'm so excited. The trailer should come out, I think, mid-July, and then the film actually comes out officially either the last week of September or the first week of October. And so it's going to be a big deal. They're also renovating the museum a little bit, changing up some of the displays and stuff like that. So there'll be some opportunities for us to display some of our work and share our story there as well. So it's pretty cool.
Well, congratulations. I wanted to ask you, are they, since you're saying that the trailer is going to be coming out soon, have you already been working on this?
So there have been pre-production stuff going on, and so a lot of it is outlining the film. A lot of it's figuring out what we want to communicate, how we're going to communicate it, that kind of stuff. The details are going to be pretty much ironed out final as a final draft, if you will, next week. We'll have a good idea about all the details at that point, timeline as well. There's a lot of people, as you can imagine, involved in this project because it's a big deal. The goal is not just to make Oprah, proud of her work, but to be able to share the story in a manner that kids 20 years from now who see it on her own network, OWN own network. See, that was a joke. I got the joke.
I like it.
Anyways,
I like it. Her own network. I got you, bro.
yeah.
I'm following
Cool. Yeah, so on her own network, people are going to see it 20 years from now. And by the time I'll be 60 years old, but hopefully it'll still make a difference in some kids or someone's life between now and then. So it's a big deal.
Yeah, I think that's going to be an amazing way to encapsulate everything that you've worked so hard to put together. I think that to get to one of the end of the races and get the recognition that you worked so hard to
Yeah.
Get at this point, I think it's really awesome. I think it's even more awesome that she's able to kind of bring together and kind of have two pillars kind of meet, because that couldn't even been more incredible of a story. Where you started is kind of where you're going to be finishing. So that's actually absolutely beautiful. Beautiful. I wanted to get Scott in here for a second and have an opportunity for both of you guys to kind of talk about either looking for sponsorship, managing your sponsorship, acknowledging your sponsorship. I know you did a little bit earlier, saying some of the people on your team, Donald, but you guys talk to me, whoever wants to go first, and let me know what your thoughts on are getting, receiving, or complimenting the guys you're already working with.
Well, Scott can go first. Age before beauty. So go ahead.
Oh, thanks, Dom. You really pushed my age old right now, but that's okay. I just want to iterate, we're very close with some sponsors. We're not in the position to talk about them or give them a shout out right now, but we're very close. And hopefully within a couple weeks, we can make those great announcements on our social media, on Instagram, as well as with this whole week is a really crazy week for Donald and us. Great PR for everybody. First of all, I want to reiterate U.S. Sailing, 5 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday. Zoom link is on our social media. Please check it out. Second of all, we have another, it's called Silicon Regatta Cup on Zoom. That is on Thursday. We also talked about Saturday, what's happening Saturday with the regatta. We're going live, Instagram live. We're going to talk about a lot of that stuff going on. Yes, you mentioned about Oprah, and also how great that is with Discover Plus and OWN Network, as well as my business partner, Mikkel. He's a big part of it too. You can find him on Instagram as I'm Mikkel. We do have a couple of great opportunities coming up. We're planning on West Coast tour coming up in end of October, early November. Something like that. But please check our social media accounts. If it's Facebook with Captain Donald Lawson, Instagram with myself at Scott Marshall 20 Instagram, as well as we have a lot of exciting opportunities coming up. I know we want to keep them surprised, and Dustin, you'll be one of the first to hear. We do have a little saying with our little company here. Don't miss the boat. This is a huge opportunity. We're really thrilled we get to talk about it, and I just can't wait to broadcast it when it comes down the pipe in the next couple months. And that's all I got to say right now. We may have you on in a couple more months, Dustin, so we could do these live breaking news, I would call them. Thanks, Dustin, for your platform.
Anytime, bro.
And
I'm excited for you guys. I can't wait. You guys are gonna go to the top. Yeah, everybody on this team is top notch. So I'm excited for you guys.
Thanks, man.
I don't know if you wanted to chime in there, Donald, and give us a little something too before we get to the end of this bad boy.
Yeah. I like how Scott McHale always put it. You don't want to miss the boat. One of the things to think about is not in our lifetime. You've had Tiger, Serena, Lewis. These guys coming through and they're making history every single day, and here we are about to do the same thing. And a lot of companies, a lot of individuals, kick themselves for not taking advantage of the opportunities. The easiest one to remember was simply Converse and Michael Jordan. All he wanted was at the time like 500,000 or something like that, some small amount of money, and a signature shoe. And they're like, well, we'll promote you like we promote everybody else. We'll do the best we can. And so this little company called Nike, at the time they were very tiny, say, hey, we'll pay you, and we'll work with you and we'll make it work. And now the most powerful sports apparel company for the last 30, 40 years has been Nike. And then it's not going to change anytime soon. And so for us, it's the same thing. Once we get going, once everything's up and running and done, it's gonna be a lot more difficult to join in at that point, because at that stage, one of the things you'll know about me is I'm a very loyal person. I support those who support me. And so our partners that we're talking to right now who are interested in us and they believe in us, those are the people that I'm going to carry with me to the end. And so some people are there more comfortable when they see it all done, like, yeah, want to hop on too. And it's like, okay, well, if there's a corner in the corner of the boat back there for you, maybe. But again, the big picture being, we're trying to make history, we're trying to make a difference. The legacy we're leaving, it's being defined right now. And so if you want to be a part of that, help shape the future, now's the time to join in.
Well, I'm excited to be a part of it in any capacity. I'm so excited. I don't know if you get a chance to watch any of my other shows, especially my live ones, but I really talk about how we need more leaders from the community to steer the ship and be the shepherds in this time right now. And I believe that your example and your leadership is impeccable, Donald. Thank you so much for all the things you do, and you make the young kids believe. And there's a lot of, I always think about the young minority folks out there who don't believe or don't have any way to kind of get out. And you know what? It's not just a microphone and a basketball. Now we have boats.
Yeah.
And we can do some other things. And who knows how this thing is going to continue to unfold. And now you can be a trailblazer and lead some other things.